And one of our guests happens to be... Could I have your attention, please? Could I have your attention? Thank you. We are about to start the meal, but I wanted to, before we do, I have one of our guests here is Les Avery. He was the pastor who performed the ceremony for Julie and I 25 years ago, and he came back for us, and we are thrilled. And I'll talk more about Les later, but he wanted to, we asked him to give a blessing before we began, so I'm going to turn the microphone over.
All right, Julie, you stand up here for this, okay? You get next to David. All right, will you pray with me? Lord Jesus, thank you for the lives of these two people and for the beauty of their lives and for 25 years of marriage. Ask that you would continue to bless them richly and to use them as powerfully and mightily as you already have in the years which are ahead. We commit them into your care and keeping, and we're honored to be a part of their lives, particularly on this day. And we ask your blessing now to rest upon the activities of this gathering and then the food we offer our thanksgiving for. In Christ's name, amen. Amen. Thank you, Les.
That's right.
He would have loved this. If he was alive, he could say the He's the most important person. She'll never trust again, but that's he's more than good.
David Elson, sure it's his son.
He was just from the dark drinks. Oh, he's gone. Lovely, right?
I celebrate 24th.
Are you doing much?
This much. Every 5 minutes.
Yeah, I will.
Every bit of that news is screwing the American line. It's the politics in John. And it didn't send us down to joy right now. Suicide stage Yeah. There was 3 of us. We had a blast. I'm a bit of a sailor, just, you know. I used to sail, and I used to sail with Mac. I even had that sail.
Go ahead.
Hi, Steve.
Oh,
Okay?
you're fine, absolutely.
To use to give it to us. That's a little longer.
Well, we would like to thank everybody for coming, and we have just a little something we want to do. But before we get started with this, music?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody. Oh, there's guys. Steve?
Or you could project.
turn the overhead music off? You got it?
Okay, good.
Sorry. I can't hear that.
Can you guys hear
What?
us? Project. Okay.
Everyone's a critic.
I know. First of all, we wanted to just thank all of you for being here because truly this is a room full of everybody that we love, which is just couldn't be better for us. So thank you so much. And then secondly, we wanted to thank Sheila for making the beautiful centerpieces that you all have. And you know, our lives are always pretty hectic, and so getting the invitations out was something we were trying to squeeze into our schedule. So my mom did the invitation, made them, sent them out, just did everything. We really want to thank our friend Robert for coming in at the last minute to do videotaping and pictures. And Jim Hunt provided the wine for this evening. So we know that usually in these situations everybody gets up and tells stories about the people who are, you know, being honored. But we're going to tell stories about you. Yes, we are.
No, it's not.
It's not a roast. This guest list was really carefully assembled because we worked in theater for so long, we really do know a lot of people. We're very fortunate that way. And we pared down to the people that had an impact in our lives. And so you guys, some of you have known me a long time, some of you have known David a long time, and some have known both of us. And some of you have only known us very recently. But all of you are here because you've made some kind of an impact in our lives. So we're just so thrilled that you've come. So what we found when we were putting this together is that it's really interesting how connected all of you end up being. And as we start to talk about this, it's going to be, you know, we met so-and-so, and then down the way we meet someone else, and it's because we were connected with the other person before. So that's kind of one of the cool things that happens with this.
Yeah. And of course, our goal is to keep this short, so we won't.
But it's not going to be, I'm sorry. I really am sorry.
And so we will keep it as concise as we can, but we do want to make sure that we say what we need to say about you. So you have to know.
Everybody's looking around going, okay.
Commence deciphering.
And some of you are thinking, I'm a date. What are they gonna say?
Those are the people that have to get up and perform. We're going to start by, I wanted to thank Les and his wife Jackie, who came today, and Les gave the blessing at the beginning. And it's very special to us because he's the guy who married us 25 years ago. And that's a lot. It means a lot, and he's been a part of my family, you know, much longer than that. And so it's an extra special treat to have you here today, being here with us.
After David proposed to me, he said, I know just the guy who has to do our ceremony, and he invited me to come to St. James Presbyterian Church, which was where Les was preaching at the time, and I heard him speak once, and I said, that is the guy. Absolutely fell in love with him and the church, and we attended Les's church for several years after we first got married.
Yeah. And actually, I should say, as my family, we started going, I was probably, I think it was like 11 or 12 when I first met you and began.
I'm not that old.
Okay. Well, then maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was 18 or
32.
What was nice about Les is that he has a way of speaking very honestly from his heart, and that really spoke to us at that time, or spoke to me as a teen, even during some of my wilder teen years, which some of you know about.
Cost you your hair.
Have you all met my brother? I gotta love him. But during our time, you know, with Les, we really grew spiritually from attending his church at St. James and his counseling during challenging times in our lives. And for my family, Les has been there to marry us and to bury us, and we are so thankful to have you and to have Jackie here with us today. So thank you for coming.
One reason we decided to have this in the daytime instead of at night was because there are so many entire families that have really impacted our lives, and many of them are here today. And these people are all people who have just created a great example for us to see in terms of families being together and being a unit that works together and lovingly going through life in the way that all of you do who are here that we've invited. At the brief time that we had Kendra living with us, she lived with us, for those of you who don't know, our niece lived with us for about 15 months. You guys, your families were such an inspiration to us, and we just really appreciate the support, the advice, the prayers, all of the things that came from those of you we admire so much. And that goes for some of you who aren't families here too. We had so many friends who were so supportive of us during that time and just made it extra special, and we admire you beyond what we can even describe. To begin with, as we start talking about families, Martha Harmon Pardee became my friend when we did a show called Motherload several years ago. And this show was written by Colleen Hubbard, who happens to be here today, and we'll be talking more about her later. After Martha and I worked together at Motherload, we became close friends, and not too long after that, she met her wonderful husband, Eric Sandfold, who is here today. And Martha's in a show. She's a wonderful actress, and so of course she's working. And but we're so thrilled that Eric is here with his two adorable daughters, Annie and but he usually is working, so we're really lucky that he's here. We've had the privilege over the years of being able to work with Martha and Eric in shows, not only on stage with them, but David's actually directed both of them at one time or another. And also, we used to live right down the street from each other, and so we didn't hang out as much as you'd think when we lived that close together, but there's something very special for us with the Harmon Pardee Sandfold family. We'll always have a special place in our hearts, and we've enjoyed all the time that we've had together with you. Another special representative of a family is the Tisdale family, and that's Douglas Tisdale, who's here, and we just adore the Tisdales. We got to know them because, well, first of all, Doug was in a Christmas Carol with us the year we got engaged at the Arvada Center, and during the show we got engaged, and Doug was there, and which ghosts were
Christmas presents.
Christmas presents. and I was Belle and Martha, the sort of ingenue people, and David was a series of people.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and so we all
we all just kept running off stage and changing costumes.
we did. And we all did this show together, and Doug had these little kids that we really didn't know later we were going to know quite well. I started working at St. Mary's Academy directing their shows, which I will also be talking about later, and got to work with every one of the Tisdale kids. There's 4 of them, and they're incredibly talented, wonderful, wonderful group of people. And then Doug himself came in. It's an all-girls school, and we were doing things like Annie and Music Man, and so I had to recruit male talent from wherever I could. So I would go to, boys would walk through the hall, and I'd say, "Hey, do you sing?" my nephew Jamie was in one of my shows, and I had him bring a whole bunch of several shows, and he had to bring friends with him, and so I finally decided to start using grown-ups for some of the roles that really required that. And Doug came in and did an absolutely amazing FDR for me in Annie, and then he was in the quartet for the Music Man. So this is a very special family to us, and we're so glad that you're here.
Well, another very special family is the Roberts family. And Todd and I met in, I think it was the 6th grade, 5th grade. Ooh, I'm proud of that. And we both graduated from Bear Creek. You did graduate, yeah. We graduated and performed in shows at the high school. But then we also performed together in Godspell at the Arvada Center back in '81. And we've remained good friends throughout all of these years. He has an incredible sense of humor. He always makes me laugh. And I've had the good fortune, and we've had the good fortune, to collaborate with Todd on several shows that have been performed at the Arvada Center. He's an incredible musician and composer. And also he's underscored music for me with shows for different ones at my school and other shows at the Arvada Center, just providing background music or whatever. He moved to LA in '82, he told me, which I didn't realize it was that long ago. And then with his family, they moved back in '99. But Todd continues to work in LA, so he commutes every week back and forth from LA, which is just mind-boggling to me. And I know they miss him, and I certainly miss him as a friend.
I'll borrow some of your miles.
He's going to auction off frequent flyer miles. He has a fantastic family that we love spending time with. His wife Laura and Morgan and Dylan are over here at this
And they
table,
all
so
make us laugh. They
they
all
are
are
just-
just funny people.
This is a family with an incredible sense of humor. A treat to be around. As a teacher, I've had the honor of getting really close to some families and their children. And the Posners back here, David, Helen, Jessica, Max, and Rafaela, Rafi, are all here today, and they continue to be supportive and creative and trusting of me with all of their kids. And of us, we've had the opportunity to direct Jessica and Max in shows outside of school. Jessica's very passionate and a very talented actress, and I was deeply honored when she asked me to be a part of her first effort as a producer with a show called Eleemosynary that we did last summer at the Logan School. Max is an amazing actor also, and an incredibly gifted playwright who's growing in that skill all the time. Rafi's probably my most enthusiastic student right now, who keeps me on my toes in my drama classes, which is great fun. So they are a family that has been connected to us now for well, many years. I've watched them grow up, and so that's been quite the honor, and I thank you for that privilege. The Smith family has, basically for all intents and purposes, lovingly adopted Julie and me. Anita and Kevin trusted us very early on with their daughters, Allison, Sarah, and Betsy, in an incredible number of theatrical projects and endeavors, and allowed us to be a part of their lives in special, countless ways, including naming us their guardians. Allie couldn't be here. She's just graduating from Harvard, the slacker. She's done very well, but her equally amazing sisters are back from their first year in college, and I think Sarah and Betsy are going to rule the world. All three of those girls are phenomenal singers, and it's always a privilege and a pleasure to get to hear them sing, especially if they sing together, because it's just, they ought to cut an album. I do have a quick Sarah story, if you don't mind, Sarah. Yeah, she minds. She was my Helen Keller when she was about 10 years old, and during a rehearsal, I had the actress playing Annie Sullivan. I filled the pitcher, not filled it, but I put water in the pitcher to this point where they splash water onto her, and I didn't tell Sarah that was going to happen to her at that rehearsal. And so it came up to that point, and the other actress took the pitcher and splashed it in her face, because I wanted an honest reaction. I was trying to get this honest reaction. Got the honest reaction. She was very surprised, and very wet, and she sat there, and I have to say, she was a little mad. But Sarah's a true professional, and she didn't, she finished it. Everything was fine. Well, revenge is best when served up cold, as Shakespeare said. And so a few days later, in another rehearsal, we were struggling through one where you call for lines, and the actors were struggling. And Helen, at the end of the show, the big moment is she puts her hand under the water pump and says, "Wah wah." We got to that moment, and Sarah said, "Line." It was brilliant. It got me. Everybody laughed. It was a wonderful, wonderful. So that's just a Sarah story. Anyway, we were all helpless with laughter. We could not be more proud of those girls as if they were our own children. I mean, it's so fun to watch what they do and to learn what's going on.
There are a couple of spouses here who have really had tested and taken seriously the wedding vow concerning in sickness and in health. And Kevin Smith and Tanya Jones, you are the two that we're talking about, they have both seen their spouses through extremely daunting and frightening health problems. And we admire the two of you more than we can ever say. When Anita became sick, Kevin was a diligent champion for discovering whatever could be done to make her better. And against all odds, she is here with us today. I had the good fortune of getting to know Tanya as a stylist on shoots that I was cast in, and after a while she started cutting my hair in her home, and we became friends as well as co-workers. And when Doug became ill, Tanya was a bulldog of determination, seeing to it that he would survive by any measures it took, including a temporary and very difficult move to Florida. And he is also here today with us. A tremendous inspiration and role model to David and myself.
Indeed. Well, we started out our married lives with a vision of being able to carve out a living as much as possible by doing theatrical related jobs. And when we first got married, I worked for Grand Tree Furniture Rental, and Julie leased apartments. So we had a really nice place to live and really nice furniture.
And David's mom said, "Don't get used to that." Well, I then moved into a teaching position for a couple of years with Jeffco Schools, and David eventually got his master's degree from DU. And right when we got engaged, Jim Hunt asked us to do a show with his newly formed Actors Ensemble of Capitol Hill. And we'll talk more about Jim later. The show was called The Course of True Love, which was actually pretty appropriate since we were just engaged and getting married. About a month before our wedding, we performed in the show, which created a pattern in our lives of doing way too much at once. Planning a wedding and rehearsing a show, but we did it all, and we've never quite been able to break that pattern.
Well, in 1985, we formed our own company, which was 7 Ages Productions, with the intention of producing theater for all ages. And our company name came from All the World's a Stage speech that Jake Weiss does in As You Like It. And we started doing some work for Town Hall Arts Center and put together a Christmas show called Tales of Christmas Past. And we got hold of Sheila Swanson, a friend of ours from UNC. More on her later. And we also got hold of Stacy Carson, which was a friend of mine from DU, to cast him in the show. And the four of us then formed a group called the Cut and Paste Players, and we created a show based on writings of local school children called Kids Chronicles.
Now, Bev Newcomb had to leave early here, but she was kind enough to come and see the show, and then she connected us with Henry Lowenstein, who took us on as his the children's theater arm of his newly formed Denver Civic Theater, and so we did the touring for him at that time. I have a quick story about Bev. Bev was the first director that ever cast me, apart from Jim, once I got out of school, and I had auditioned for her for a Glass Menagerie to play the part of Laura. And at that time, not everybody in the world had answering machines like we do now, and I didn't hear anything. So I got a note in the mail a few weeks later, and she said, "I really wanted to read you further for Laura, but I couldn't reach you." And so I went out and got an answering machine. And then she cast me in Tribute, which I did the Bonzies, and it was the first show that I did outside of college here. And I became very close friends with her daughter Claudia eventually. And unfortunately, she couldn't be here today. She's working at the Galleria Theater, so she's another person in theater working, which is always good. But I will always treasure the long talks and long laughs that Claudia and I have had together.
Well, I got to direct Bev with Eric Sandvold in Arsenic and Old Lace, and it was her first sojourn back on stage as an actor after some years, and she was phenomenal. And I hold her in high esteem as a director, and had loved being directed with Julie by her in a production of I Do, I Do, but was a little intimidated to be her director. But I have to say she was gracious and professional every step and in every single way.
We also worked with Bev's husband, Rick, who had to leave with her, obviously, and he and I did a production of Godspell together at the Arvada Center. There were two different productions, and one David was in, and a few years later I was in one with Rick Madden, and he also helped us arrange that cruise that photo album's floating around. He helped us get that arranged, so that was really great.
Well, in those early days of the Actors Ensemble of Capitol Hill, I got to know Jim Hunt, and he was Julie's high school drama teacher. And Colleen Hubbard, who I'd met in college, was also a colleague from the high school days. And they went to the same high school, but they were a couple years apart. Colleen and I are much younger.
We're gonna have a fight
That's the
now.
only one I get to do.
She still has her hair.
I know. And her looks. That's why I said that's the only joke I get to make about being me. Colleen has come in and out of our lives through various theater projects over the years, and I had the good fortune of being in the second production of Motherlode and directing a host of others, both of which were written by Colleen.
She left playwriting for a while to become an author of books, and she and her husband Larry are both authors and have done well with that. But recently she made a triumphant return to playwriting with a production of The Raft, which I had the good fortune to be in this past winter. Colleen and Larry are extremely talented people, and they have woven in and out of the fabric of our lives over the years. But there's something about the age we are and the experience that's behind us that has made this last collaboration extra sweet in my mind. I just have a real sense of appreciation for who the two of you are and how fortunate we are to have the two of you in our lives. Thank you. The Raft was a very challenging play to do. It would take too long to explain why, but it was very difficult, well worth it when we got to the final product. But it also was a chance for me to reunite with Gracie Carr. And Gracie and I were in the original production of Motherlode together in 1990. Before that, David had performed with Gracie and Annie. Later on, I worked at St. Mary's Academy with Gracie. She was there on staff, and she was also the Fine Arts Chair for quite a while. And Gracie, I love your kind heart and your warm character. And the experience to work with you again in The Raft was a true blessing to me, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, that whole freelancing thing in theater wasn't quite enough to pay the bills, so in 1989 I took a job as a theater teacher at the Logan School for Creative Learning. Now, an amazing woman with a vision, Patty McKinnell, created the school, and she's here today. And it's an amazing place. She and Susie Carroll are two inspiring master teachers, and what they do daily leaves me in awe. I mean, I do the theater part, but what they do with their kids, at kind of opposite extremes. Susie's got the young kids, Patty's got the kids that are probably just leaving the school or are there for the last couple of years. And what they do with those kids is just inspiring. And I'm honored to learn from you both each year, every year. And to have you as my friends. So I'm so glad that you could come today. My two colleagues of my 17 years there in the theater department are the married team of Len and Charlie Jackson. And they are the technical theater arm of our department, and they've realized all my visions that I have for shows. If I say, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we had, and then they do it. But the thing that's amazing is their workforce are the students. And so it's not that they go out and build these things for me, they help the kids learn how to build these amazing things, these sets. And so it's been, again, another honor to watch that happen for 17 years as these incredible sets are built by these students. Len, you keep me thinking and engaged about things that I might not give a second thought to all the time, which is a really good thing. Charlie, next to my father, you are probably the most diversely brilliant person I know. I can ask Charlie anything and he'll come up with a solution. And Mac, my dad, was that way. He just could think it up. Anita was the music, the heart of the music at Logan for so many years, and I got to work with her during that time and become a great friend. And for many years we did that, and I miss your presence daily there, and I think the school does too.
Amen.
Yeah. Now, somewhat newer to the Logan theater world is the Allen family of Dina, Phil, Austin, and Carter. The boys couldn't be here today, but Dina and Phil are, and they have all lent a hand. All four of them have lent a hand to the theater at any opportunity or need that we have. Dina brings a passion and a work ethic that, as a parent and a volunteer, that's truly a gift. Any school would be blessed to have her there. And Phil gives of his professional expertise as a sound designer generously and without hesitation, anything we need. And so I count myself blessed to be able to know both of them as friends as well.
They don't know whether to clap or not.
These are great.
My friendship friendship with Bev's daughter, Claudia, led to a connection with Sharon Allison of Rave Reviews. Rave Reviews is a theatrically based corporate communications team. That came right off the website. I thought, how do I describe it? I'll go on the website. I don't remember if it was 1999 or 2000, but somewhere in there, David and I started writing scripts for Rave Reviews, and basically what they do is what we do for them is take corporate information and try and make it entertaining, so turn it into little mini musicals and so forth. We used to write as a team, and now I write the scripts individually. But we have cherished not only the work from you and Shanti, but also the relationships that have come out of the Rave Reviews connection. Sharon and Shanti run a warm and ethically conscious business, and we really appreciate being a part of that. They're dedicated to the people that work for them and also committed to creating quality products for their customers. I sometimes call the work I do for Rave Reviews writing boot camp because the tight structure and fierce deadlines that I'm sometimes up against almost make me insane, and especially when a client, well, we could go on and on, but we won't. But I believe these years of writing for Rave Reviews have made me a stronger writer, and I really appreciate the experience and the opportunities that you guys give me over and over again. So thank you so much. Now, writing and occasionally directing for Rave Reviews has given David and I a chance to work more closely with Rob Costigan.
Now, we first got to know Rob when he worked for us as a caroler in our company, the original Dickens Carolers, and he was with us during the Frosty debacle. We had just added Frosty the Snowman into our repertoire, and the three of us and another singer were asked to sing it at a stage show in a shopping mall, and we were all kind of feeling a little unsure of the lyrics, so we said, okay, well, we have one copy of the lyrics, we'll just hold that and we'll all sing it. And we had a microphone.
It was the sheet music, so there were several pieces of paper.
So there were several pieces of paper, and we started to sing, and partway through, we dropped the paper, which just kind of sailed out. And we all, as if on cue, we all four stopped. And we were done. There was no more singing of that song, and Rob is the one who nicknamed it the Frosty debacle.
Rob is one of those people for us that when we think about him or we talk about him, we get all squishy inside. He's warm and kind and wonderful, and we absolutely love you.
Now, someone here who also performed with Rave Reviews, I actually first saw on stage way back in the mid-'70s. In our senior year in high school, Todd and I went to a review show at Loretta Heights College, and one actor really stuck out as a triple threat, and I was inspired to become a better performer. And some years later, Todd and I auditioned for that first production of Godspell at the Arvada Center in 1981, and we recognized that guy again, more talented than ever. And we were all three cast into the show, and I had the privilege of getting to know the amazing and multi-talented Michael Gold. And for the first time, Michael got to try and teach me to dance. Which didn't work then, and then years later he held a class that was a dance class for the dancing impaired, and I was there. Still didn't work so good. But he is one of the most compassionate people that we know, and he has remained an inspiration and a friend ever since.
Another connection with Rave Reviews is our friend Greg Johnson. Now, Rave Reviews is how we are sometimes connected now, but we started out by casting Greg in our children's shows, and then he became one of our carolers, and he's caroled for us for many years. How many now?
12 at least.
12 years, yeah. He is a consummate professional. He is a detail kind of guy, and he actually came early today to help us set up and was just so wonderful.
He's indispensable.
Can I tell the story? I'm gonna he did several of our kids' shows in Keystone, and our Keystone shows, we always got to spend the weekend up there. So we all got to hang around together too. And the years when somehow he wasn't in our shows were never the same without Greg there for part of the social fun and also being in it. But I think my favorite role that he ever did for us still remains the old prime minister in the clown version of The Emperor's New Clothes. There's a picture of him floating around somewhere. He's dressed like a little
The green nose.
and it just probably there's the emperor right there. Greg is not only talented, but he has a generosity and gentleness of spirit that makes him very special to us. So thank you.
Well, we also have another reason to be grateful to Greg, and that's because Greg introduced us to Renee Rupp. And Renee runs a business in which she does things that people don't have time to do. And in our case, she cleans our house. And she not only does a great job of cleaning our house, but she is now an essential part of our dogs' lives. They love her. And she is a delightful person to know. And Renee inspired Julie and I to start working with a personal trainer and has made our lives better just for knowing her. Thank you.
Yes. Comparatively speaking, we haven't known Renee all that long, but we just love you and love having you in our lives for so many reasons. So thank you so much. Thank you. Now, sitting over here at what we affectionately nicknamed the rowdy table is my good friend Alyssa Gregory, the one who's going woo woo woo. See? All right, we knew. After Les retired, we had moved over to Southeast Denver. We started to look for a new church home, and eventually we landed at Grace Chapel. And the church is very large. It's the large church that's right across from Park Meadows that you can see from the highway. It's a very big church, and so we needed to break it down a little to get to know some people. So I started attending the women's Bible study there and just searching for who was going to get me. There's two great conversation stoppers when you're talking to typical church women, and one is, no, I don't have any kids. and two is, I work in theater. I always get a nice, oh. Anyway, enter Alyssa. We had both been cast in a sketch that was going to be done for the women's retreat. And I had seen her before, and I knew by that big friendly smile that we would probably get along really well. She has proven to be one of my all-time favorite people to spend time with. She is fun and funny and has a deep spiritual conviction that I have truly learned from. We don't see each other as often now that we don't go there anymore, but we have an agreement. We have a same time next year agreement that we go to women's retreat every year together. So thank you, Alyssa, for being here.
Well, often in our work relationships, we end up with really wonderful friends. And several years ago, when Dania Anderson was only 19, she came to audition for a production of Gifts of the Magi that we were directing at South Suburban. And she won the role and our hearts. And that same year, she also joined our caroling company. And she became kind of a surrogate daughter for us. And we have really enjoyed being a part of watching her grow into a wonderful young woman. And she's now married to Matt Mortimer and expecting their first child in November.
We moved back to the west end of town. We went on another church search, and Dania and Matt helped us find Bear Valley Church, which is where we're attending now, and we're looking forward to becoming involved. Dania heads up the drama ministry there, so that's a good niche for us, and people won't go, theater, huh? So we're looking forward to that.
And a few years back, well, probably more than I can remember, Katie Bradford came and auditioned for one of our Arvada Center shows. And, well, except you weren't Katie Bradford then.
Richardson.
Yeah,
Yes,
you were Katie
Katie
Richardson then. And she came and auditioned for us, and we immediately fell in love with her talent and with her, and have been friends ever since.
Katie is one of those actresses who could just stand on stage with a look on her face and make you die laugh. She has a great sense of comic timing, and as the years went by, she did some Keystone shows and she became a caroler. She's just one of the most committed and accommodating people that I know in terms of to work with. She's a wonderful person to have on our team as far as when we're hiring people, but also she became a good friend to us as well. Eventually, Katie, Terry, and Sheila and I started having some girls' nights out gatherings, and I always look forward to those with great enthusiasm. And speaking of Terry, Terry Cohen goes back to a connection with Colleen and Jim, who you heard tell about. For the second production of Motherlode, Terry and I were cast together as sisters. And she had recently moved here, and good fortune and Jim Hunt brought us together in that show. We subsequently became friends outside of the show, and David and I started casting Terry in our children's shows, and she became a caroler. See a pattern? As the caroling company grew, Terry became my right-hand gal for the caroling company. She is invaluable to the company and also to me as a friend. We've seen each other through many life changes, including Terry becoming a mother of 4 over the years. Her most recent addition to her lovely family is Chloe, who they just adopted from China. She and her husband Matt adopted from China. And I thank you so much for all the ways that you've enriched my life. Thank you.
Our life. Well, way back in those early days of the caroling company, even before we staged the great caroling coup and took over the whole thing, we caroled.
It's another story.
It didn't used to be ours, but we caroled with Pam Nocerino Widman, and Pam is one of the most unique individuals you will ever meet. She's standing, or not standing, she's sitting back there. She's a tiny bundle of energy, talents, and accomplishments.
I always enjoyed being around Pam, but we formed a unique bond when we traveled together to Okinawa to entertain the elementary school kids on the military bases there. One of the ways through the years that David and I have had so many opportunities is to say, yes, I can do that, when people ask if we can do something, even if we can't. And we got a call from somebody who was connected with Dodds and needed to send a show to the military, the kids on the military bases, that would include sign language, singing, and tap dancing. So, David was...
$100 at work.
Yeah, David, we don't know why, but those were the requirements. David was tied up during Nicholas Nickleby and teaching, and so there was no way he could go. And I had, in college, run a theater troupe for the deaf, so it just so happened we had the sign language beat, and could passively sing, and I knew that Pam played the guitar, and I knew a little bit about her writing music, and I figured between the two of us we could somehow learn to tap dance. So I said, yeah, we can do that. And then I called Pam to see if she'd be willing to leave town for that long. And to my surprise, she said yes. We created a workshop performance called Rhyme, Rhythm, and Signs. And within a month of having been contacted, we were on a plane on our way to Okinawa, Japan, with our little performance. We spent 3.5 weeks on an island that was all of 60 miles long. And we found that we were so compatible, it was like traveling with ourselves. It was an amazing, almost month-long adventure and an unforgettable experience. It expanded the two of our lives in ways that are difficult to explain in a short time. But the greatest thing I think that came out of the trip was that Pam, who is a very talented songwriter, reignited her passion for music and began writing again. And although life with all its demands has kept us from spending much time together in the last few years, I will always relish our friendship and that one-of-a-kind experience that we had together.
And it was so cute because they both got off the planes with completed scrapbooks. They've got everything developed, and here's one of them.
The island was only 60 miles long, 3.5 weeks, so we didn't have much else to do.
They have them all.
Yeah.
Well, we met while we were attending college at the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, and while there we performed in shows with Sheila Swanson. Now, at that time, we were friends, but only casually, and ironically, Sheila and I were often cast as the love interests in shows or whatever, and Julie was usually the scorned ex-girlfriend. It happened at once. Well, when we were putting together our touring children's theater company, we knew that we needed to hire Sheila. And she was talented then, of course, but over the years, she has become known as one of the best actresses in Denver.
We'd like her to come up and do a little something. She is multi-talented, and not only does she act, but she sings, and she works with our caroling company, and not only as a singer, but administratively as well. And apart from all the many Keystone and Arvada Center shows that she has done for us, she is one of our dearest friends. In college, we really only knew her casually, but we've become very much like sisters. And in fact, I have so many wonderful female friends, and I feel so fortunate, but she's probably the closest thing to a sister that I have, because we used to look quite a bit alike when we were young. People used to confuse us when we were younger, and I try to boss her around. And she will say exactly what she's thinking to my face. So, she's one of the few friends that I have that we can have little tips and apologize to each other and just move on. And so that's a really unique quality of our friendship. One of our best stories to date, though, is when Sheila and I auditioned together for something that Pam sent us on. Now, Pam, you might not remember this, but Pam called and she said, I have a friend who's doing some casting for the Discovery Channel, and they wanted people to be sort of bizarre circus acts. And so I called Sheila, of course, and I said, what can we do? And so we had done these children's shows together, and we had this two-headed thing we had worn as aliens or something. So we decided we would be a two-headed clown. So we put on fright wigs, and we put together a little piece that went to a Spike Jones. I always get him Spike Lee mixed. They're very different. Spike Jones song. And so we always hurt the one you love, and we choreographed the whole thing so that we were fighting. And I was the right hand applying her clown makeup very nicely. She was the left hand really doing a bad job on my clown makeup. So we had this fight, and we took this clown saw and then cut ourselves in two at the end. It was brilliant. So yes, it was. So we brought in our little tape player, we had our little fright wigs, and we're all ready with our makeup, and we get partway through and they stop us and go, thank you, that's fine, but and she goes, oh no, don't stop us, we have a big finish. So they let us do our big finish, and then they said, that's very nice, but you know what we're really looking for is sort of sultry, evil planets. And we had gone a bizarre circus act. So they said, if you could just, one at a time come up and just kind of move very seductively in front of the camera. I made Sheila go first. and so she got up in front of the camera, was like going, and then I got up on the front of the camera. And we had our things on. And so then they asked us if we would be willing to wear bodysuits, to which we both laughed at first. Then they asked us to take our wigs out. They said, your headshots are fine, but we want to see what your hair really looks like, so if you could just take your wig. And we're like, well, we have our hair in wig caps, and so it's... Well, we didn't get the job. It's a great story.
Well, you may have noticed that Jim Hunt's name came up several times in these stories. And as I mentioned earlier, I got to know Jim Hunt through Julie because he had been her high school drama teacher. And Jim, I feel so fortunate to have been able to have a friendship with you, obviously through Julie, because I have learned so much from Jim. He is brilliant to work with as an actor and to take a direction from him as a director. And I've had the opportunity to be both an actor for him and to be able to direct him in shows, and it's an honor.
Now, there are certain people in my life for which words seem inadequate to describe my depth of feeling for them, and Jim, you are one of those people. He has been a teacher, a colleague, a mentor, here we go, thank you, Pam, and a friend to me. I will always treasure our long, long lunches and our penchant for analyzing and figuring out how to redesign our lives, especially mine. The spot in my heart that you occupy is like that well-worn stuffed animal from childhood, comfortable, familiar, welcome, and loved. Thank you for always being Jim Hunt. Jim was not only my teacher, but my friend Jean's teacher as well. Jean is the one over here in her lawn chair. My friend Jean, a week and a half ago, had major surgery, and she's here anyway. So she and it's very much like Jean. Jean to say, I'm not going to let that stop me. I'll just bring my lawn chair. And I'm so glad. I met Jean at the age of 13. She was the new girl in school, and because we moved around a lot, I was quite often the new girl, and suffered the subsequent snubbing that a shy new girl often experiences. And I vowed that I would always make any new kids feel comfortable that I could find. And there in 8th grade home ec class was Jean Johnson, now Jean Hofling. There is not enough time to say all there is to say about the amazing and lasting friendship that followed. But suffice to say that we journeyed together through adolescence, young adulthood, and now we cling to each other for support during this wicked Middle Ages. She lived out of the country as a missionary in the French Alps for quite a lot of our adult lives and came back to the States several years ago. I'm not sure exactly when it was. We never lost touch with each other, and when at long last she moved back to Colorado, we picked up right where we had left off. She has been an inspiration to me in her Christian walk and her courage in the face of mountains to climb, both literal and figurative. We've seen each other through many highs and lows, and I value her friendship tremendously. Thank you, Jean. Since their return to the States, David and I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know her husband, Tim. He's a man of the kind of strength of character that is rare indeed in today's world and today's culture. They have brought up 4 remarkable children, and they are 2 of the most dedicated and self-sacrificing parents that we know. This is another of those friendships where words seem hollow in comparison to the profundity of feeling. Jean has been a part of my life for so long that I can't imagine navigating life without her. Just as we were in high school, there's no such thing, it's the same now as it was in high school, there's no such thing as running out of conversation, and I don't think we ever will. Jean and I worked our way through high school, and then she went to CU, and I, after taking a year off and working at Country Dinner Playhouse, as the prop girl and seamstress, which is ironic because I don't sew a stitch. Now's the time to thank my mother for all the hemming and I would take in these beautiful, hemmed pants, and I'd get tips, and my mother had done it all. That was one of those, yeah, I can do that. Well, I went on to school at UNC after that year off from school and was computer matched with 3 other roommates. One was a 4'9" bundle of energy named Donna Marsh, now Donna Scott. She came in the room, and I thought, stuck-up cheerleader type. And she thought I was a druggie. I was just tired. Well, we could not have been more wrong about each other. We soon became close friends and partnered in that unique college experience where you think you're all grown up and end up doing more growing up than you had ever done before in your life. I have to tell you a quick story. When we were together once going through the drive-thru of a bank, Donna always drove. She had the better car. She had better everything. So we were going through the drive-thru, and she always had a cup of coffee or a Diet Pepsi or something with her. And it was just the classic. I asked her, we were at the drive-thru of the bank behind a car in front of us and waiting, and I said, "What time is it?" And she jumps out of the car, which is in drive. We roll right into the car in front of us. Yeah. It was a classic Donna moment. Now, just as with Jean, I could go on for hours with stories and deep emotional connection I feel with Donna. But in the interest of time, I won't. We've been through thick and thin together, and my admiration for her cannot be fully expressed. One of the low points in our lives was when Donna, in her mid-20s, was in a very serious accident and lost her left leg. Her unsinkable optimism, her deep faith, and her determination caused her to never take on a victim's or handicapped mindset. All she did was overcome and overcome and overcome. Favorite stories is of Donna being at a barbecue shortly after she got her first prosthesis. She wasn't married at the time, and a guy who had had too much to drink was coming on to her. And he put his hand on her leg, and he said, "How would you feel if I do this?" And she said, "I wouldn't feel a thing." tell you these stories because being an amputee has so little to do with who Donna is. She's married to another one of the best men I know, Bill Scott. He has become a warm friend to David and to me, and is one of the most genuine and caring people we have ever had the good fortune to know. You are both tremendously important to us. With David, and I also was in classes with Stephen Dietz, who some of you know is a very well-known playwright now. And Donna and I took turns having crushes on the two of them. Each day, well, who do you like today? Well, I like David. I want to see.
We were clueless.
So one day, we pretty much decided I was going to be focused on David and she was going to be focused on Steve. And I went out. I went out to drive somewhere, and my car had a flat tire. And so I came in to Donna and said, "Oh, I got a flat tire." And she said, "Well, we could fix it ourselves." Now this is the 70s, so we're very independent women. And she said, "Or we could call David Payne."
And so they did.
We did. So we called poor David Payne, who didn't know what was going on, and I said, "I have a flat tire. Can I borrow your jack?" Because I didn't want to seem completely helpless. So David said, "Sure." So we went over, and we went over in Donna's car. Now, never mind that Donna had a jack in her car. We didn't think about that. And we get to David's, and David walks out and hands me the jack.
Let's remember she's a writer. No, I got the phone call, and that was exciting enough because it was Julie calling me, and so I was like, well, sure. And so they came over, and I think I was busy looking at her. They opened the trunk, and I just set the jack. I didn't even, probably right next to the jack that was already there. And then I said, well, remember to hook it to the chassis, don't chassis? So I said, I'll go with you, I'll help change the tire. So I jumped in the car, and we went over there, or I guess we went over there, not with Donna.
Right, so in your car.
In my car, and we get there, and she goes to one side of her car, and I go to the other, and we're both saying, oh, here's the flat tire. The whole front end, both tires were flat now. So she had two flat tires. Well, that's exciting. I thought, well, it's the same size tire as mine, that's fine, we'll use my tire. And my spare and her spare. We go to her trunk, we open it up, and her spare is flat. So now she's got three flat tires. And all I could do was sit on the curb, and my head hurt. I really wanted to be the white knight and to do the right thing. I could not think of what to do. So it took 2 days to get this fixed. We kept taking tires to get them repaired and borrowing jacks, and it finally worked out.
So there was nothing to do but to thank him by having him over for an Italian dinner.
Well, we're lucky in that we count our family members as friends as well, and we have both been blessed with great families. Bill and Shirley Seitz are here today, and they are two of the nicest, most interesting people that you could ever hope to converse with. And we value them for their relationship we have with them, but we also for the connection that they represent to my parents, who both passed away in 1992. So I want to thank you both for being here. My brother Steve and his wife Sandy and their daughter Megan are here as well. And Steve is my big brother, if you couldn't tell. And I could not ask for a better one. He's the most generous, big-hearted man I know, and I envy his way with people. It seems like he knows someone somewhere in whatever business I need. So, like our father Matt, Steve is my resource, my go-to guy for how-to. And I call him and rely on him daily, regularly.
You can't pick your relatives, and that includes your in-laws. And I am very fortunate to have Steve and Sandy as my in-laws. Sandy is not only my sister-in-law, but also a very good friend to me. And we also have very long lunches together, and all the time we spend is first-rate and well-enjoyed.
I agree.
Steve and Sandy are understandably very proud of their daughter Megan, and she is a delight and a treasure with maturity beyond her years. And I always wanted her to be at my school just so I could be around her on a daily basis. Megan, we know as you go through life, you will continue to make your parents and family very proud. You are a wonderful girl.
friends in life also happen to be my cousin Kathy, who's sitting right here. She's Kathy Ferguson now. She was Kathy Brenny's then. I look back with great fondness on the time we spent together as little girls. We always had so much fun. Family gatherings were always eagerly anticipated because I knew Kathy would be there. We grew from very small girls running through the sprinklers to teenagers double dating, and I cherish those memories with you, Kathy. However, the very first kid I ever met was my brother Dave Elston. Now, unfortunately, he had to go do a show. He's also working. But we had the good fortune to have wonderful parents, and so David and I had a great childhood. We moved around quite a bit during my earliest years, so we often found periods of time where we only had each other until new friends were made. He had a tremendous imagination and would often engineer scenarios for us to play out in which he was the main character, and I was all of the supporting players. For instance, he was Robin Hood, and I was Maid Marian, Little John, Friar Tuck, and all the merry men. I think this was an advantage for me later on in my career. I appreciate the fact that we've remained close through the years. He's now married to Connie, and Natalie, her daughter Natalie, and her son Daryl were here earlier, but I think both had to leave. So I guess we'll skip them, they're not here.
Okay. We've got a few nieces and nephews here today as well. My sister Linda and her husband Jesse couldn't be here in person, but they're here in spirit. Fortunately, her son Jamie and his wife Courtney and their daughter Ella.
Ella could not.
Yeah, Ella could not be
here.
here. We thought she was going to be here, but and they're expecting a child on the way here in November. And even with the childhood trials that were ill-timed and unfair, Jamie has become an outstanding man, a husband and a father, and we are very proud of you and your accomplishments. His sister Erin and her husband Zach, their children Zachary and Madeline, were also unavailable, but we send them our love as well.
My brother's son, Harrison, is here. He's about to finish his freshman year of high school and just completed his ordeal to be inducted into the Order of the Arrow with the Boy Scouts. And he's well on his way to becoming an Eagle Scout, so we're very proud of him. Okay, we thought Kendra was going to be here, and you all, most of you know that Kendra lived with us for about 15 months, and that relationship was a very complicated one, and we just, again, want to thank all of you who were so supportive of us during that time. That continues to be a multi-layered and complicated relationship for us. Obviously, our lives were changed completely when she came into our lives for the brief time that she did. We were very proud of the accomplishments that she made during that time, and we're praying for her as she goes on to this next phase of her journey.
Well, for those of you who don't know, my son Jeremiah is back there at that table. He's an amazing young man, husband and father. Kirsten is his wonderful and lovely wife. And we have 3 of our grandchildren here today, Colton, Stetson, and Shania, who's sitting on Jeremiah's lap. And the other 2 were awfully little and thought it'd be better if they weren't here for that. But we are so proud of all of you, and you are such an inspiration and a joy. Thank you.
Well, last but far from least, I want to take a moment to recognize my parents. John and Gypsy Elston have not only been loving and devoted parents all through my life, they have served as an excellent example of how to maintain a long marriage. This year, they celebrated their 53rd wedding anniversary. Wow. They have not only talked about, but also have lived the principles of respect, support, acceptance, and the importance of the role of faith plays in a marriage. I thank you for all of the sacrifices that you've made and all the selflessness you have shown. You are 2 remarkable people for whom I am eternally grateful, and we both love you very, very much.
And Gypsy wanted to come up and say something as well real quickly, so I'm going to turn the...
But we'll conclude our part. Just look, so we won't have... and then, just sit down. Yeah. Thanks.
So we're going to just finish, and then you can say what you're going to say. And then Todd has agreed to come up and sing a song for us, which I'm just very excited about. So we wanted to conclude by just saying that we never know where life is going to take us, even when we think we have it all planned out. And we look back on this 25-year journey with much joy and satisfaction. And as I've told some people, it flew by. I don't even remember 25 years going by at all.
And they say money can't buy happiness, and we'll never really be sure about that.
We'd love to try.
We do know this, that if money was the only way to happiness, we'd be pretty miserable. But instead, we are remarkably blessed and very happy and joyful. Our treasure in life is all of you, and you have made us rich indeed, and we thank you so much for being a part of our lives.
Gypsy gets a microphone, and then Todd is going to sing a song.
Julie, I have a 50th birthday memory book full of memories of your family and friends.
Oh, thank you.
I would like to read our page from that memory book. To Julia Rose from Mom and Dad in celebration of your 50th birthday. Even before you were born, Julie, you couldn't wait to get out and do your thing. You kicked and kicked, and I had false labor for 2 months. I remember that right after your birth, when I was coming out of anesthesia, I asked the nurse, "Does she have wings?" The nurse smiled, and I slipped back into oblivion. We named you after Julie Harris, whom we had seen in Member of the Wedding. Little did we know that one day you too would be acting. You were such a sweet baby and looked so cute in your little white gown that was tied at the bottom, so we nicknamed you Sweet Pea. We remember when you were a toddler, you had a make-believe friend named Mary. You would discuss things very earnestly with Mary. Even then, you loved to talk. We remember your first play in grade school. You wanted the part so badly that you memorized the lines and amazed your teacher at the play tryouts. Of course, you got the part, and the old man was always right. It was fun to watch, even though your leading man's mustache went flying across the room when he breathed a sigh of relief after saying his lines. We remember your good high school friend Jean and the zany way you used to gab about the boys you liked, with nicknames like Lampshade and Banana. Then there is Donna, your college roommate. Jean and Donna are like daughters to us and are still good friends today. We remember your first leading role as Passionella in The Apple Tree. It was then that we discovered what a beautiful singing voice you have. We remember when you first met David in college and count ourselves as fortunate to have a son-in-law who is like a son to us. You two are like a finely tuned violin with its bow. You make beautiful music together. What a remarkable partnership of love, friendship, and caring you both have shown throughout your 25 years of marriage. Julie, you are truly like your middle name, Rose. You were born into this world a shy, sweet little bud, and now you have blossomed into a beautiful, full-blown rose. That nurse at your birth many years ago should know that throughout your 50 years, I have seen those wings many times. Your wings are always there, just waiting to fly.
I'm going to steal that music in the song, just so you know. That's wonderful. The little angel wings, I love that. Dave and I went to high school together, as he said many times, and he's always been my biggest fan, which, of course, makes me question his musical taste. And I wrote a song that was actually one of those heart-wrenching, I love you, don't leave me kind of songs. And he loved this one part in it so much that he said, you have to rewrite that for our wedding. So, of course I did. And that was a long time ago. And he said, do you think you can resurrect that? And I thought, high school? No. So, on the way back from LA, I started to write a new song for you. And it's a good thing I finally took the earphones out, otherwise it would have been, get your motor running, because that's what was on the radio. So hopefully you'll find this a little bit more lovely than that. She was pretty and smart and a little bit shy. He was silly and clueless, just your average guy. Still he made her weak when he flashed that smile. Maybe he would be the one. There were signs and signals, but he didn't catch on till her best friend said something. And then it didn't take long to their first date, their first kisses, the first dance to their song. And a couple of years went by, and he asked her to be his wife. He said to her, there is no one who will love you like I want to through all my life. There can be no one who wants you, one who needs you half as much as I always will, and I always will. Well, they took the plunge and they swam away into unknown waters where they rode the waves. They learned life can be cruel, but it can also be great. When they found they swam against the tide, they would look into each other's eyes and say, there is no one who will love you like I want to through all my life. There can be no one who wants you, one who needs you half as much as I always will. So let the rain pour down, let the storm's wind blow, and I'll hold you, darling, and I won't let go. love only grows like a beautiful garden from the seeds they've sown. It's fed by holy waters from where God only knows. And even in the toughest times, you can look into each other's eyes and say, there is no one who will love you like I want to. Through all my life, there can be no one who wants you, one who needs you half as much as I. There is no one who will love you like I want to. Through all my life, there can be no one who wants you, one who needs you half as much as I always will, and I always will.
Let's have some cake. I know we're going to
So cake. Cake must be. Oh. I recognize it. Oh. Kim! Yo, listen up. Well, I was asked to give a toast, and when I give a toast, I give a toast. So, let's see. What an amazing group of people. Todd, you were amazing. Gypsy, good Lord. So I was stacking up all these things I wanted to say before I said what I was planning to say. So one of the first things is, would these guys please take a writing workshop? Obviously deficient in that area. Second, a line from the Will Rogers Follies. I want to say you guys are a gift to this earth. That's important. Also, I think that Gene always used to call Julie Hen.
Still do.
And still do. I just think that needed to be here. This is Hen.
We don't know why.
We don't know why, but she's Hen. You guys didn't mention the Molly Brown house, which was one of the favorite things I get to do almost every year. So anyway, they have made my life richer than I could ever tell you. And every time I think of Julie, I think of Thornton Wilder. And then today I was blessed with Gene sitting beside me. So when I directed Our Town at Alameda High School too many years ago, because you'd then be, well, we know you're 50, so big deal. It's in the 70s. I've probably known Julie for 35 years, and Gene as well. So Gene was Emily, and of course Julie's never forgiven her for that. Julie played her mother. And anyway, the stage manager in Our Town says almost everybody in the world gets married. You know what I mean? Most everybody in the world climbs into their graves married. I just thought I'd start with that. And then I just like this little piece too. There are a lot of things to be said about a wedding. Talk about what goes into a wedding. Well, that was years ago, but this great line, people were made to live 2 by 2. I had to just cite that. And then I had to get, you know me, I just can't keep it all sweet. So from the skin of our teeth, I just want to read that and then toast you guys. The announcer says in the second act, we understand that you're about to celebrate a wedding anniversary.
I know our listeners would like to extend their felicitations and hear a few words from you on the subject, and they give the microphone to Mrs. Antrobus. And she says, I have been asked by this kind gentleman, yes, my friends, this spring Mr. Antrobus and I, so substitute David and Shirley, Mr. Payne and I will be celebrating our 5,000th wedding anniversary. I don't know if I speak for my husband, but I can say that as for me, I regret every moment of it. Oh, I beg your pardon. What I mean to say is that I do not regret one moment of it. I hope none of you catch my cold. Achoo. We have 2 children. We've always had 2 children. There hasn't always been the same 2. I just thought that line was kind of weird for you guys too, right? But as I say, we have 2 fine children, and we're very grateful for that. Yes, Mr. Antrobus and I have been married 5,000 years. Each wedding anniversary reminds me of the times when there were no weddings. We had to crusade for marriage. Perhaps there are some women within the sound of my voice who remember that crusade and those struggles. We fought for it, didn't we? We chained ourselves to lampposts. We made disturbances in the Senate. Anyway, at last, we women got the ring. A few men helped us, but I must say that most men blocked our way at every step. They said we were unfeminine. I only bring up these unpleasant memories because I see some signs of backsliding from that great victory. Oh, my fellow mammals, keep hold of that. My husband says that the watchword for the year is enjoy yourselves. I think that's very open to misunderstanding. My watchword for the year is save the family. It's held together for 5,000 years. Save it. Thank you. These are 2 of the most amazing people I've ever known. And I think Julie's 50th birthday, which I can't even believe has occurred, I kind of got lost in this, but I just, with all my heart, with all the love inside me, drink to you for your continued happiness and everything that you've done to now. Who but you would have thought about turning this around and making this about us? So, I
All of you. Thank you. Come to the game.
Let me do it again. I'll let you stand. Whoop.
You guys, don't you have to? David,